Hello everyone, back tuning into today's first video doing the CFS 6 months look ahead. For today's first video, we're going to be going 6 months ahead with the CFS model, as the name of the video implies. This will take us through to January 2016. Can you believe? So we're going into the start of the new year with this particular update. It's just for fun, it's not to be relied upon. The first month or two has some scientific sort of basis, but as we're going on sort of 4, 5, 6 months away, we're into the realm of speculation. The charts are there, so as I say, might as well use them, look at them, but it's not to be relied upon, of course. It's just one model giving a snapshot of what that model is showing for instance, January 2016 at this time when we're doing the video on, what are we doing, 19th of July. So we'll have a look at all the charts on that in a moment, and then this afternoon I'll be doing a new El Nino update. That will be appearing on the ENSO page. That's going to be really interesting. I think there's some very interesting signals currently going on with the El Nino. So we'll be looking at all of that, what's happening in the Pacific, Southern Oscillation Index, and all the rest on the El Nino page this afternoon. But if I get on with all of these updates, just to say about the ads, there's link articles on all the pages. Guys, you have a browser widget, should be helping to page the website. If you click through the links, that's the key to it all. Thanks so much for doing that. There's also video ads on those pages. They open out within the content. When you watch them, they'll close back up again. And by doing that, it'll be helping to pay for the website. So all these things will allow me to sit here and talk to you via GaussWebBiz.com. So let's get on with the update then. We're going to start off with the 700 millibar height anomalies first of all, and then we'll go on and have a look at the corresponding temperature and precipitation anomalies that go with these 500 millibar heights. So we're going to start off with August, of course. Of course, the first month or two has a greater chance, no more than that probably, but a greater chance during the first month or two of being an accurate prediction compared to, say, 3, 4, 5, 6 months hence. So here we go for August, and we've got a ridge of above average heights. As you know, yellow extrapolates to high pressure, blue extrapolates to low pressure. Got a ridge of above average heights sitting to the west of the country. The jet stream is going a little bit like that, and over here you can see there's probably some sort of trough in the 500 millibar flow across Scandinavia. Not a particularly deep one, but I think there's a bit of a dip going on in the 700 millibar flow, actually, as it, but it will also be a dip in the 500 millibar flow as well, if you get what I mean. So high pressure out to west of the country will keep us with a lot of settled weather, I think, through August. Should be mostly dry, but I wouldn't be expecting necessarily all that much of a way of hot weather on that one. Now, as we move through to September, this is quite a big change on what the model has been showing over the last few CFS 6 months look ahead. So this is just really confirming that these aren't to be relied upon by any means, because the last few updates for September have generally seen a lot of high pressure, a lot of anticyclonic influences going on. But as we go through into this particular update, what we're seeing here is that the ridge is actually a long way away on this particular update. It's up to the north of Scandinavia. You can see it over here as well. It's going a long way away from us, and actually there are hints of troughs of low pressure coming in off the Atlantic a bit. So we're actually probably doing something like that, coming through the country and then going north around that ridge once it gets to Scandinavia. So overall, that could actually be a relatively unsettled signal now for September. It is quite a big change, and that ridge has gone a long way off towards the east and the northeast compared to where it was on the last CFS 6 months look ahead and the one before that. So yeah, quite a big change is going on there on that particular month for September. Now, as we go through to October, we find the westerlies really setting in then. So this is probably implying quite an unsettled autumn developing. We're reverting to a zonal flow there with high pressure to the south, low pressure to the north, bringing the jet stream right through the country like that. So that is an unsettled situation for October. Low pressure driving in off the Atlantic. Mild westerly winds though, but potentially quite unsettled, and maybe even quite stormy at times with that deep trough of low pressure to the north. But trough gets deeper as we go through into November, and now, of course, we're talking about 4 months away, so not to be relied upon, but that is a very deep trough of low pressure in the Atlantic. The ridge is again down to the south and the southwest, the jet stream going like that. So yeah, it's cool and it's unsettled really there for November. I say it's cool because I think that trough is a little bit more centred towards us. So the jet stream may be going ever so slightly to the south of the country. So that's why I think that could be a little bit on the cool side for November. Maybe giving us some early wintry type conditions, but it's certainly very unsettled. It'll be a really wet month with that low pressure sat more or less over top of the country, let's be honest. Moving through to December, and we find the low pressure is still there out west of the country, but look at this, heights are rising to the south and the southwest of the country. If you know how to read these charts, that's not good news if you want cold weather, because what's going on is that the flow goes rather like that. So winds will be going into the southwest, and between the low pressure to the north and west of the country and the high pressure to the south-southeast could actually be dragging up some very mild southwesterly winds. So that could be a really mild but also quite a wet month for December. And then finally, this is how January 2016 is shaping up. The first month of next year looks like this on this particular update of CFS 6 months look ahead, and it's still very unsettled. Low pressure up to the north of Scotland now, high pressure centred through southern parts of Europe. So again, I would think the jet stream is going a bit like that. And I do think, again, it could be another very mild month with the high pressure that's centred through the central part of the Mediterranean going into Central Europe, but low pressure to the northwest of Scotland. It could be very wet for the north and west of the country, but down to the south-southeast, that could be almost an early spring type pattern. But it's 6 months away, and it is just for fun. It's not to be relied upon. So let's see how the temperatures stack up with this. And we start off with August. And there we are, we're having a pretty cool month of it in August. If the model is right, temperature anomaly is no better than average. Northern parts of the country coming out a bit cooler than average as well. And the reason that's happening is that there's a ridge sitting just around there, and the jet stream is going a bit like that. There's some sort of trough within the 500 millibar flow. So we're on the coolest side of the jet, and with the ridge out to the west, the cooler is coming down from the northwest. And those cool conditions continue into September as well. So I think last month's update, maybe one before that, was indicating quite a warm September. Now we've gone pretty cool for September. Temperature anomalies again, no better than average, and maybe even hinting at being a bit cooler than average as well. October comes out with average temperatures there, no real ceiling. You probably expect that because I think we're bringing the jet stream more or less through the country like that. So it's a westerly month with a lot of low pressure up to the north of the country. Westerlies in October will basically deliver near normal temperatures. So I wouldn't be expecting a particularly warm month, but I wouldn't be expecting a particularly cold month either. Now November does turn pretty warm for most parts of Europe, where most parts of Europe are in those milder than average orange colours. For the UK and for Ireland, we're close to average. A little bit of warmer than average temperature is in the south of the country, but basically we're near normal for November. And remember, we've got the trough of low pressure more sort of centred around the country just there. So I think we could probably be lifting or sinking the jet stream just a little bit to the south of us, and then it goes something like that. So it means that for most parts of Europe, we're actually on the mild side of the jet, but just for November, we bring down a little bit of cooler air from the north and the northwest. So maybe some early wintry conditions would be possible, but overall very unsettled November would be likely on that sort of 700 millibar height anomaly sector. Now, unsurprisingly, December goes very, very mild, and the reason, of course, is that we've got high pressure sitting around here somewhere, and with low pressure up here, we're dragging up in between southwesterlies from that sort of direction. So it does go very mild as we get through into December. It's 5 months away, so if you want cold weather for the winter, don't necessarily be too alarmed that sort of blowtorch warmth as we go through into December, and that just continues into January. Look at that. That really is a horror show. Though just about all parts of Europe are much milder than average January there. Across the whole of Europe, the only place that's got a cooler than average anomaly is Iceland. Otherwise, again, it's warm or certainly milder than average all the way. And again, there's this big area of high pressure sitting through the central Med, which would be dragging the air up from that sort of direction. That's very similar. If you cast your mind back to winter of 97-98, which was a very strong El Nino. That's very similar type conditions to that particular setup that we had that winter. Finally, have a look at the precipitation anomaly, see how they are stacking up with all of this. So for August, we come out with basically a dry of an average month. You would expect that because there's a ridge just there. And although we are dipping the jet stream down through the flow, overall, that high pressure does protect us quite a bit from the Atlantic. So a fairly dry month for August. Conversely, a bit of a wetter than average signal for September. So there's definitely been a switch here, and I really want to focus on September a lot for this update because it just brings into focus that these charts are very prone to chopping and changing, and they can show one thing 6 months away, but that by no means is how things are going to pan out. And this from September just proves it, with the consistent signal throughout the last few CFS 6 month look at has been for high pressure and drier and warmer than average conditions to dominate September. Now it's looking a cooler, wetter month, with the high pressure being pushed back somewhere up here, the high pressure going up to there somewhere, and that's allowing the Atlantic winds to come in, giving us a cooler and more unsettled month. It's not a particularly wet month, but it is a much wetter and cooler signal than we have had over the past few updates. As we go through to October, now this is a little bit surprising. I thought October was probably going to be quite an unsettled month, but actually it's coming out with near normal precipitation anomalies for October. I do think it'd probably be a more unsettled month than that, though, from what the 700 millibar heights are showing. I reckon we get a little bit of a wetter than average month in October. Turns significantly wetter than average for November, and that, of course, because we're sinking a trough within the 700 millibar flow right down over the top of the coast. So significantly wetter than average month for November, and then those unsettled conditions continue into December, so very mild, and you can see that through most of them it's drier than average because there's a ridge centering around here, but it's bringing up very warm but also moisture-laden air from the tropical Atlantic. So a wetter, significantly wetter than average month in December, and that signal continues into January as well. Very wet signal across not just British Isles but virtually the whole of northern, central and Western Europe as well. Drier than average conditions are down through the Mediterranean because we've got that ridge centred across North Africa into the central Med. It's dragging up very mild air from the tropics, but it's also dragging up a lot of moisture as well. So that's a pretty grim picture if you want a colder than average winter, but it's sort of month 5, 6. It's right at the extended range, not to be relied upon by any means. It's just how the model is trying to play things out, probably because of the El Nino. We'll talk about El Nino in the update this afternoon, but it's probably playing around with ideas associated with that El Nino. But coming back to the next month or two anyway, August looking fairly dry but quite cool. Really, I think probably a continuation of what we've had through the summer, actually. I would expect the south to be okay. The north probably will be rather dismal. And then I think the signals we're going through to September and then on into October is probably to bring the westerlies in this month, which is a little bit surprising because it goes against the general trend of traffic that we've had through September over the past few years. A more unsettled September is possible, and a cooler September as well on this sort of update. Okay, that's the CFS 6 months look ahead for July done and dusted. We'll do it all again next month. And that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Come back this afternoon for the latest on El Nino. Bye for now.